Well, we have to start with a definition. Bland, we know what bland is.
Yes.
Define blanding. I believe we have some visual aids to walk us through that.
We do have some visual aids, and hopefully they will work.
Should I start while you get going?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, blanding is a term, obviously, where things all look the same. And I think with the rise of sort of technology, when we moved from all the exciting things that used to happen in like Flash to HTML, everything went very flat and very graphic. But it wasn't just because of like website design. It was also actually the brands. So like the identities of like the leaders of like Microsoft and Google, which followed with like the Pinterests and the Spotifys, they all went into like a sea of sameness. Everything felt very, very much the same. And then it kind of became a bigger epidemic pre-pandemic and during the pandemic with the rise of direct-to-consumer brands. So with everything, it started to look the same. And then thereafter, it became kind of contagious. It affected fashion, which is kind of heartbreaking because everything had so much character. So why did they need to throw out all of their rich heritage in order to kind of move everything into kind of like black and white and a sea of sands? And then it affected interiors and product. Do you want to like flick through some of the others? We've got some nice A's.
No.
Oh, it's a little bit stuck, our slides. Anyway.
Technology.
It affected so many different categories. And yeah, that's where we find ourselves today. So it's like, how do you make a brand distinctive and be able to stand out in what has become a sort of very fast and automated and very bland world?
So let's talk. Yeah, newsflash, AI can make lots of things worse. Apparently it has made this problem worse too.
Yeah, we are in two minds about this. I think we are past at the stage of saying, you know, creatives, when the first AGI technologies started to come up and creatives started to experiment with them. And there's a lot of really good examples of how creatives can enhance creativity or automate processes. And Lisa is going to talk about some of those examples. Fortunately, I think we're past the stage where we are worried about AI taking over our jobs. That's not going to happen. I really don't think so.
As a journalist, I hope you're right.
Exactly, I'm feeling optimistic. But there's ways in which, and examples that we have tried and experimented, where artificial intelligence can help enhance human intelligence, and examples where the kind of work that absolutely no creative is willing to do, or you know, it's really annoying for us to do, this kind of job can be automated. But I think when you talk about enhancing human intelligence, we need to pay attention to the way the tools that we have available to us today are being used, because they are, for most of it, helping build this sort of really sea of sameness, bland world in which, and if you go around a lot of the pavilions here in Web Summit, you will notice that each one of these brands, they're trying to stand out, selling really similar things, AI-powered technology, and they are not very distinctive. And I think Lisa has led a really interesting study with Ipsos that talks about how it adds to revenue to have distinctive assets. So let's talk money, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, it's even this year, I think is it 4.7? Oh, you're going to bring it up. This is brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. There you go.
$4.7 trillion is going to be spent on marketing this year alone. And when you get down to it, only 15% of those assets for brands are distinctive, which means 85% of it is just absolute noise. And we're bombarded with it. So when you start to think about kind of automation and using AI to be able to create brands, it gets quite scary. Are we just going to be adding more noise to the kind of problem, versus coming up with kind of unique ideas and understanding what a brand stands for, its essence, what's special about it, what the world needs, those intersections of what a brand can stand for often comes from human and real people's ideas, from meeting stakeholders, from getting in the weeds with the brand, and then using a tool like AI to bring it to life. And I think we have to remember, generative AI has only existed for 2 years. I keep talking like this is like 10 years ago or something like in the past. So much has happened in 2 years, and it's so exciting. Like, people used it for play, and that was brilliant. It was super fun, and we saw Heinz campaigns and imagination and things with Coca-Cola. There were some brands really at the forefront of using it to be kind of really expressive, but this conflated many, many issues around copyright and all of that. So what we've then seen since that sort of happened is actually people start to use AI more purposefully. And recently, Pentagram and Paula Scher used it to create a set of iconography that appeared in the government's kind of US government's website in terms of navigation. But it still caused so much debate whether is this a threat, and why couldn't we have done this by hand, and why couldn't we have done it like this versus a tool. And I think it's just we're finding ourselves at a really, really interesting point in time.
Yeah.
I think if we try and just replicate human things that we can do, it doesn't come off so well. But if we have a unique idea and then use AI to bring it to life, we're seeing that being much more successful.
So walk me through what that means in practice, because I think there's this conception a lot of the time, the idea that somebody says, I need a new logo for my fintech startup,
Yeah.
and AI generates, it's going to be a sans serif font in a solid primary color, and the logo is going to look like a circle, like every other company. Is that how things go off the rails in reality, and how should they go?
That fintech company probably won't exist in a year or two's time.
Yeah.
And that was the problem with direct-to-consumers. When everybody just wanted to get their prototypes and get things out there really fast, I completely understand the rationale behind it. But a lot of them have completely disappeared because they don't have a unique proposition that consumers then understand who they are, what they stand for, and what they're going to do in the world. They started to kind of like drift away, and it was kind of the brands that led the way that really were much more unique in the way they think about it. I mean, this place is kind of an example.
Do we want to critique any of the logos we can see here?
Yeah.
A really good example of what we're talking about. And funnily enough, I was participating in the pitch competition, and I was part of the jury panel. And this is actually one of the questions that's a criteria for investors. Are you future-proofing? What kinds of services and products do you envision? If you're using AI as a tool now, how are you envisioning to future-proof your company? And the way that you build your brand really fuels into that, not just on the narrative and the storytelling and what you tell people about your brand, but at the same time, a good brand strategy gives you a value proposition and helps you build assets that are going to last for much longer. So yeah, it's fundamental, especially in this space where we're living now. But it's funny what you said about the circles, because we were using a not so nice word to describe the kinds of icons.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was a really good article about that. I mean, all of the actual AI brands are unfortunately suffering from what happened with direct-to-consumer.
Yeah.
They're getting things out as fast as possible. But even as a person that uses a lot of these tools, it's understanding what makes one different to the other. Their actual symbols all look the same. And yes, there's been an analogy to something, an anatomy of a cat. But anyway.
Just Google AI company logo. Not will it work. But on the other hand, we've been seeing companies come up with boring and bland logos and design looks for years. I hope Jaguar didn't pay an AI company to make their logo look worse and boring. PayPal, I think they came up with that pre-AI. So is this more a problem of boring humans in management making these decisions, and you would get the same output whether it is somebody with, an artist's tools or sitting in front of a screen typing in a prompt?
I think there's something about, and that's why we kind of placed, and when the term was coined in 2018, as we showed, it makes sense for startups, for example. You're throwing, with the startup boom, you're throwing a product and the new startup using technology, out there in the world. You need to start creating some codes. This is exactly what's happening with AI-powered new products and services. You need to start creating codes so that people understand, that there's AI here. And this happened with a lot of other technologies. So you start creating visual codes because that's how humans, and I'm going to talk a bit about this in a second, that's how humans extract meaning out of things. These distinctive assets that we're using, very brand strategy, brand identity related terms, that's what it's there for, to help people navigate an overcrowded world of information. So it helps people derive meaning out of this. So I can understand if you're worried about making the best UX possible, creating the best experience and the best product, that you're going to leave your visual identity and distinctive assets to a later stage. So sure, it makes sense, but to what Lisa and I were saying just now, you will lose relevance with time, because what goes around comes around. What helps people understand what the brand is about and make it belong to a certain group, in the future, when you need to stand out, you won't be able to. And it's all about what you mentioned. It's all about the core idea. If you have an idea, and I think Lisa can expand on that, it doesn't matter what kind of tool you're using if it helps you tell the right story about your brand.
Yeah. I mean, I've just come off judging quite a few awards. It's like design awards season. And honestly, if I read one more entry that says, I designed this in AI, I'm like, my head is going to blow off. I'm like, I do not write, I designed this in Photoshop or Illustrator. Like, who cares what tool you use to make it? It's about what the idea is and what the execution is and what the craft is. So I'm like...
Now, I know when I look at every time there's some new AI tool that comes out, everyone on social media rushes to adopt it.
Yeah.
So OpenAI introduced some tool that lets you apply the Studio Ghibli effect, which was all fun and good, and then the Trump administration decided to use that in a tweet about throwing an undocumented immigrant in jail, and that was not cute, and Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli was not amused at all. Is the design industry at least resisting that temptation to jump on every new toy the AI industry throws out?
I don't think so. Yeah,
I mean, I think obviously it is about finding what is the best tool. I mean, I think a lot of things that I read or I'm experiencing in work every day is that it's not one tool can do everything that you need it to. So even take, recently some of the most sort of films and things that are being made in AI, they're using 5 different AI models to be able to make those. So that's also really hard to know which one are you meant to use for what. It's all very experimental still right now.
Yeah.
But obviously, one tool will probably come out on top, potentially ChatGPT and OpenAI, but it's going to come out on top. And I mean, what you were talking about with Studio Ghibli is the problem with AI in terms of its drawing. It's a trained machine drawing from many other people's unique styles, which ultimately, if you wanted to create a brand in that look and feel, it's going to be not what that brand stands for. It's going to be what Studio Ghibli stands for.
And also what happens is that today we got to a stage where AI is embedded in a lot of the tools that designers and people creating visual identities for brands, in a way that even if you are a startup that's starting, that's beginning and wants to have a, decent, let's put it that way, visual identity, you can with the tools that we have today. And that's, if I had to name a threat, I said that we were past the threat mode. But if I had to name a threat in terms of creating distinctive assets, I would say that our eagerness to experiment with the tools that we have now, which are fantastic, you can create really decent pieces of work, but that means that without an idea and without human intelligence fueling it, today, you end up with things that look and feel pretty much the same. That's why, Lisa and I, when we go to, judge awards, we end up, how do you award something that it's good? It's good, it served its purpose, it serves the client purposes, but it doesn't stand out. And I bet it doesn't stand out for clients either, for consumers either, because it looks pretty much the same.
Do you want to share any sort of best practices for using AI to make your creativity better and not try to replace it?
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really wonderful case study in terms of I work on the Coca-Cola brand with the VP of Global Creative there, Rafa, who came up with an idea, and he partnered with Adobe to create a product called Adobe Vision. And we've been using that tool where you switch on the AI when you start creating the design system and the guidelines. So once you've already come up with the idea of what the brand looks like, you've probably started to create the assets like the typefaces, the logo, the color palette. But you switch it on and it starts kind of recording your screen essentially and follows your sort of design system as you make the guidelines. The idea is that when you create something like, for instance, we were creating a Coca-Cola and meals design system that needed to roll out globally. We are talking like hundreds of thousands of assets in all different markets. Creating a tool that then can implement those in local markets but still allow for unique copywriting, for you to change the photograph depending what you're talking about. But the actual design system, it creates huge global consistency, and it's amazing. And that level of craft, people have always said, oh, is craft going to be taken away through AI too? And I'm like, but it's to have that power of consistency when we're talking about brands being effective in marketplaces, that I think I'm really excited. And I don't want to do all the resizing of the core asset, then you reinterpret it into millions of different sizes, change all the language. I want to give the time back to designers for ideas and to be creative.
Perfect.
So I guess we can summarize the lesson, the takeaway for the audience. Let AI do the boring work, but do not be boring.
Yeah.
And hire creative humans.
That is a good sum up.
All right, very good. We hope you found this enlightening and not at all bland. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.